thank you so much for coming here today. This is the Song Poet Information Session. My name is Gaosong and I'm the community organizer for this project. So a little information about the project. So the Song Poet is a world premiere of a Hmong American opera for youth. It's a youth-based opera based on the award-winning book by Kao Kalia Yang, which will be performed by Project Opera. Project Opera is a youth training program housed within Minnesota Opera. So Minnesota Opera's mission is to change lives by bringing together artists, audiences, and community by advancing the art of opera for today and for future generations. So I just want to say a quick disclaimer. So Minnesota Opera, we are recording this session, and Minnesota Opera reserves the right to use this archived video from the webinar to promote the Song Poet. So please let us know if you do not wish to have your image or questions recorded for distribution by sending Jamie a private message through the chat function down below. And we will discuss removing those from the final video. But before we talk anymore, let's actually introduce everybody who is a part of the creative team here today. So I'll have you guys maybe just go down from, I don't know how you guys are viewing it, but maybe just pop in.
Well, I can go first. My name is Mitra Sadeghpour, and I'm the director of Project Opera, and I will be serving as music director for the Song Poet.
And I'm Jamie Andrews. I'm the Chief Learning Officer with Minnesota Opera, who's oversees the education department and part of Project Opera as well.
I'm Rick Shiomi, and I will be the director for the production and basically involved in the staging of the production.
I'm Jocelyn Hagen, and I'm the composer of the Song Poet.
My name is Kao Kalia Yang, and I'm the author of the Song Poet, the book, and the librettist for the project. Thank you all for being here.
And on this call, we also have Rebecca and Pablo, which are part of the education department at the Minnesota Opera. They're helping us with tech today, and they're waving. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm just going to quickly go over the format of today's webinar. So the real objective, we have three main objectives today for everyone who is here, and we want everyone to have more awareness about what the Song Poet is as a project. Want to learn about how you can participate in the Song Poet with Project Opera, and also just to learn why this project is also important. So I'll be moderating the discussion. We have some pre-formed questions which I'll be asking our creative team here today, and at the end we'll leave 10 minutes for a Q&A so that you audience participants can ask live our creative team. And if throughout this process you feel like you have any questions at all, feel free to enter into the chat box, and if we have the capacity to answer, we will, or else we will compile them and then ask them at the end. Or else if you feel really strongly like you like something, or you want to say yay or give us a little round of applause, there is a reactions bar at the bottom of the Zoom link, just like how Jamie's showing you there. So you can give us a thumbs up or a little hand clap whenever you feel passionate and want to show us how you feel. So with that being said, I guess we'll just start with the first question. So this one's for Kalia. So Kalia, can you tell us what is song poetry and who can be a song poet?
So I learned about song poetry actually as a child in the arms of my father. My father, from my earliest recollections, was a song poet in the Hmong tradition. Whenever my father sang, the community would gather and listen, and always inevitably people would cry and they would weep. Most of my father's songs, especially in my early years, were about the war, about life before the war, the life that is impossible now. And so from the earliest age, I felt like song poetry was just the background to the music of my life. There was a soundtrack and I just happened to be living in it. It wasn't until my father stopped singing after my grandma died that I actually took a step back and started looking into this form, into this new quiet that entered. Song poetry is an art form that belongs to the Hmong people. For many of you who know anything about the language, you know that I belong to a language, Gaosong, and there's no Hmong word for art. But song poetry is this vehicle that we've used to carry our emotions, to document our histories, to speak to our yearnings, our dreams, our deepest hopes for each other and for humanity. There is something inherently communal about the form, both men and women, anybody who wants to can sing it. But the acclaimed ones are the ones with the voice. As my father says, when I try to sing it, people, it's bothersome. That's what my daddy says. Maybe it's not your art form, but there are intricate rules that govern the form. I am not a song poet myself. I am the daughter of one, but it is very much, and I think it was my introduction to what poetry can do to story. You know, I think as a memoirist, I live in this line between poetry and prose, and it is my father's poetry that has influenced my prose. So I am indebted to form.
Thank you so much, Claire. That is such a beautiful, eloquent answer. I would expect nothing less. Thank you so much. So it's so amazing to hear you explain a little bit about what song poetry is and who can be a song poet. So can you share a little bit about what is the storyline of the song poet and what inspired you to write it?
Yeah, so the Song Poet, the book began in 2012. We were in another economic depression. My father and his coworkers had just lost their jobs. And so my dad, he was home every day. He would wear his work uniform, but he'd walk around the house looking at the clock. And my dad, he would carry the medical insurance for our family because they were let go. The company argued that they left their jobs, so they had no medical care. My dad stopped taking his medication, diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. And so he stopped making eye contact with us. And one day, out of the blue, to call him back, I said to my dad, I said, "Why did you become a song poet?" And my father looked at me for a brief moment. Then he looked away again. And he said, "When I was just a boy, your grandmother, she had 9 mouths to feed. My father died when I was 2. She took to the mountainsides to feed us with a garden hose the size of a palm. And so what I used to do was I used to go to the houses of friends and neighbors, and I would collect the beautiful things that other people had to say to each other. By myself, I'd whisper the words to comfort my heart. The words escaped on a sigh, and a song was born. And I thought it was beautiful. So I said to my dad, "That's beautiful." And he kind of nodded and nodded. And so I said to him, "Maybe that's the beginning of my second book." He looked at me and he goes, "No. We live in a country where presidents can write books about themselves. Why would anybody read a book about a Hmong refugee working in the factories of Minnesota?" And I looked at my father, and because I am inherently stubborn and passionately persistent, I decided to prove my father wrong. And when my father saw that I started writing this book, he wanted me to do it right. No, but my dad did not want to look over my shoulders as I was writing. He, in fact, did not want to know what I was writing about. I'd ask him every once in a while, "Daddy, do you want to know what I'm writing about?" He'd look at me, he'd say, "I hate it when people interfere with my process. Why would I do that to you?" And then he would laugh and say, "You know that talk is the death of great art. How many great stories have died in talk, Minai?" And so I sought to tell the story about a fatherless boy who became the father that he imagined for himself, for me and my brothers and sisters, about this machinist who polishes metal in a factory, but how it is in his heart, where the poetry lives on and where his heart is. I think the tears from that heart gave life to the seeds of my own work. But it's quite epic. It's about war. It's about this orphan boy who yearns for a father, about this young father who doesn't know quite what to do, and then about the realities of living life in America first as new Americans, as Hmong refugees.
That is so amazing. I'm so excited that you decided to prove your father wrong and to write to actually write the book. And now I'm just so excited this is getting turned into an opera. So Mitra, I would love to hear a little bit from you. So I guess in your own words, what is opera? Like, what is it historically? And why are you excited about the fact that Minnesota Opera will be producing the Song Poet as the first ever Hmong opera?
Well, first I'd like to say, Claire, it is such an honor to be a small part of this project and to, in a small way, help you tell your story through opera. The first it's the most important thing I think that I've been a part of in my career. So thank you. So what is opera? Opera is a musical play that tells a story through singing. It's as simple as that. The power of the human voice, which I think makes it a really wonderful venue for telling the story of the song poet, because it is about the power of the human voice. But it's supported by costumes, set, movement, acting, lighting, and an orchestra of instruments. So it's the ultimate collaboration, the ultimate collaborative art form, which is one reason why I love it so much. Gaosong asked me to talk about the history of opera, and opera is 420 years old. The first opera was right around 1600, and it was in Italian. And the early operas told the stories of Greek mythology, and then they began to tell stories of kings and history and things like that. First the Italians, then the French, then the German, and then some British English. But it wasn't until the 20th century, around 1920, that American operas, the first American opera was composed. So we are late in the history of opera. And some of the operas that you maybe would have heard of, we have an opera called Little Women. There's an opera called Dead Man Walking, even The Shining by Stephen King. And I'm very proud of Minnesota Opera because we are committed to doing American operas every year. But the history of opera has not included a lot of diverse voices. It is only recently, maybe in the last 15 or 20 years, that female composers, composers of color, composers from countries that are not Western European, this is relatively new that these voices have even had an opportunity to compose opera and be a part of this genre. So Minnesota Opera's mission is to sing every story. And yet there are so many stories that have never, ever been told in opera. And the Hmong story is one of them. And the Hmong story is a central part of our community here in the Twin Cities. And so for Minnesota Opera to be able to work on this project with Kao Kalia and the other wonderful artists that are going to be involved, but for us to be the part, to be able to help bring this important story and this beautiful book to opera audiences everywhere is very important, and I feel very passionately about that. And also through this experience of creating this opera, Minnesota Opera is learning and growing in our mission to sing every story. So it's an old art form. It's time for it to be updated, and I'm really excited to be a part of this project, which is doing exactly that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mitra, for sharing that really thorough and concise, historical perspective about what opera is. And I can't believe that it's a 420-year-old opera, and only within the last 15 years are we really starting to change what it means to make an opera and what that looks like. Everything from who's composing to who's on stage to who's the story about. And so I'm excited to be a part of this project personally, but I know that we have such an amazing creative team, including Rick Shiomi. So Rick is the director, and as a director, Rick, you've worked on a variety of theatrical performances in Minnesota and across the nation and world. So we would love to hear what excites you or inspires you as you prepare to direct this production.
Well, I'd say first of all, the story is so powerful and so tremendous, and Kao Kalia's writing is so fantastic. I mean, I'm so happy that she's going to be the librettist on it. I just recognize in her writing the power that you see when she's even telling the story. So that's a powerful excitement. Another is because I've been an Asian American theater artist in the North America for the last 35, 40 years, I've really been involved in a lot of new work for the development of Asian American art forms in theater. And one of the areas, although I haven't done, this will be my first opera, true opera in a sense. I did a version of the Mikado. I actually rewrote the book a little bit, but did that a few years ago, and it was a really exciting. It's an operetta, so it's not sort of it's in the territory between opera and musical theater, and I've done a number of theatrical musicals, and so I'm really excited about this particular opera because it's just so full of powerful, epic emotions and sort of political and social realities. There's so much about it that involves social justice and the immigrant experience, and in particular the Hmong experience. So it's just really an exciting project, and I'm just so honored to be involved in it.
Thank you so much, Rick. I for sure can say that. Of course, I've worked with Rick before on different shows and different productions, you know, at different organizations and companies. And it's always such a pleasure to have you as a part of the team. And so I'm so excited to see your direction and how you're going to take this stage play and really bring it to life as you get a chance to work with the youth here. Of course, we also have Jocelyn here today, who is our operatic composer. So Jocelyn, I know that you have like a breadth of experience as an operatic composer, and actually you've really garnered a reputation for successfully pushing the boundaries of operatic compositions. So what inspires you when you're composing?
Oh, I am completely inspired by this story and all the aspects of the story. But what I'm really drawing from every day in my composition is the Hmong song poetry tradition. When this project was just beginning, I had a CD of B. Yang singing his song poetry, and it just resided in my car, and I listened to it a lot, and just had that sound world just kind of become part of my musical world for that time, and just beginning to get into it. And now I'm so thrilled that we decided to bring him in to actually help with the composition of some of the lines because some of the libretto is in the Hmong language, which I do not speak. And I tried to set some of those phrases musically, and it was very hard to do so without speaking the language. And it just seemed so right to bring him in to sing those lines. And as soon as we kind of arrived at that, I knew it was the right decision to bring him in. So now I'm working with, listening to him daily and the way he's singing it, the rhythms he's singing it, the melodic line, and letting that actually be what the singers are singing. And then also having that style influence the rest of the writing as well, so that everything is really based on that tradition. What Kalia said is that, the song poetry is an art form that belongs to the Hmong people. And I just feel like my number one job is to honor that.
Wonderful. That's so exciting. Definitely as a Hmong speaker, I know that the Hmong language can be fairly difficult and it's my language. And so I think it's such a great idea you decided to bring in B. Yang, who not only is an expert, but also that you're drawing from the source community from which the art form comes from. And that it just seems even more full circle that this story is about him. And now he has the opportunity to create the music that's going to be put into this opera. So that's just so exciting. And we're just, of course, always so excited to have you as a part of the team too. And I can't wait to hear the music. I mean, I've heard amazing like bits and pieces of it. So I'm really excited to hear the rest of it as it comes forward. And so this next question is actually for anybody in the creative team who wants to answer. So we know that opera as an art form tends to have a reputation for possibly like excluding people and or perpetuating racist narratives and stereotypes about people of color, but especially Asian people. So can you each speak to the importance of the song poet, especially given the state of the world that we currently live in?
Well, I'd be happy to start anyways. Because I've been involved in Asian American theater for so long, I really feel like that is of primary importance, to have some authentic representation of our cultures and of our characters and of our individual people, in a sense. And I think that this project really focuses on that, that the song poet looks at a particular life, at a particular set of lives. It is a particular Hmong experience, and those people are going through that journey. But there are also universals that are involved in it. There's the universal of immigration, the universal of being Asian American, of dealing with racism in North America. So I feel like it is a fantastic combination of both authentic and historical experiences and characters, but also at the same time, the universals of some of these major issues that are involved in our country. But that's just a start. Any others?
I can come in next. I think that we live in a world that is creating more and more refugees all the time. And more than ever before, those conversations about citizenship and belong and national boundaries, these things have to be unraveled and unpacked in meaningful and I think real ways. And that is, I think, part of the gift of the Song Poet as a book. It's taught across the country at universities and colleges. And in all of those visits, when we talk about the idea of the refugee, right? So many people forget that a refugee seeks and delivers refuge in some very real way. It's almost biblical in its implications. And so I think that by its very nature, the song poet is interrogating and forcing a conversation, inspiring, I hope, a conversation that we as a world need to have, particularly among the young. In a world teeming with refugees, what do we do? Whose responsibility is it to welcome? Is there such a thing as belonging in a world where we're here together? With a global pandemic like this, I think we feel it, right? These things travel across races and cultures and lands, and so I'm, from that perspective, I think it's incredible. And on here, I'll let some of my other colleagues go.
Is there anyone else who would like to share their thoughts? Mitra?
I'll speak a little bit about one of the things actually that I am looking forward to the most about this production is working with a diverse group of students and singers. We'll talk more about the age group of Project Opera later, but we're basically looking for 4th graders through 12th graders to tell this story. And it is essential to this project that we have a diverse group of young people to tell this story. And I think it's the perfect group to premiere the Song Poet, that this will be sung by kids, because as Kalia says, the youth of the world are, all the decisions that we're making as adults, it's going to be affecting their lives, and for them to tell this story and the way that this story triumphs at the end as well. So we are hopefully doing our part in, yes, there has been a history of opera not being as welcoming to diverse singers, I think partly because the stories that opera has been telling have been many of them wonderful and dramatic, and there are universal truths about love and death and duty and honor and all those things, but it has been telling kind of one kind of story for a long time, and so now we're telling this gorgeous story that we've been talking about today, and we are going to have diverse kids, Hmong kids, Asian American kids, any kids from the Twin Cities, any kids that want to be part of telling the story. So this is a baby step towards the solution.
Wonderful, thank you so much. How about you, Jocelyn? What are your thoughts? So would you like to share any of your thoughts at all?
Oh, it is just truly an honor to be a part of a project like this that is bringing such diversity into opera. I'm really proud to be a part of it. That's it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your insightful answers and thoughts. And I definitely think that this is such an amazing piece of art, but not just for the operatic, not just for opera as a field, not just for the Minnesota community, and not just for the Hmong community or the Asian American community, but really in redefining and like what partnerships can look like between organizations and community and what connection is and just the power of art generally. So thank you all so much for sharing all of that. So now we're going to kind of transition into maybe some of the more like technical details that I know you all are interested and want to learn more about. So Rick, can you actually explain a little bit who can audition for the Song Poet?
As far as I know, we're just open to anyone auditioning, and I think the roles are open. We have been proactively recruiting young people from the Hmong and Asian American communities because, of course, this is an Asian American Hmong story, so that we want them well represented in it. But I think it is, as Mitra said, open to anybody, in a sense. And so we want to involve as many people as possible in the production, as many young students ready to be involved in this kind of production, to be a part of basically kind of a landmark production for this company and for opera.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And actually, I know that today in this call, we have a lot of Project Opera students as well. But Mitra, can you actually explain a little bit more about what Project Opera is for those who maybe don't know about the program?
Yeah, so as Gaosong said at the beginning, Project Opera is Minnesota Opera's premier youth training program for young singers. So roughly ages 8 through 18, 4th grade through 12th grade. I believe, Jamie, you can correct me, it's in the 17th year this year. And the thing that's really different about this program than most youth programs is that the kids, the students, sing all the roles in the operas. There are not adults in the productions. So we have a history of commissioning operas. So this will be, maybe Jamie, maybe later could talk about what some of those other ones have been, but the exciting process of commissioning works for our specific voices, but also doing some of the standards from the repertoire. The Gondoliers, I think, was one of the last ones that they did, like Gilbert and Sullivan. Rick was talking about the Mikado. So, and these are boys and girls, and basically they don't even really need to be from the Twin Cities. We do have some real troopers that drive over from Wisconsin because they want to be involved. We have students that drive from Faribault. We can help with organizing transportation. And there is also carpooling, that if we have more than one person from an area. So the majority of our students do come from the Twin Cities and the suburbs, but if you can get here for rehearsals on Saturdays. So we will generally be rehearsing Saturdays from October through the opera is to premiere in February, and we have some Monday night rehearsals that are music rehearsals, and also Rick will be working with the actors and the staging at that time. So I don't know if any of the Project Opera kids that are on this call want to chime in at all about what you think Project Opera is, but I mean, we're just a big family by the end of the year. That process of putting together the show and rehearsing together and sharing music, and being the kid from your school that likes music in the same room with all the other kids from their school that like music and performing. So I know it's a great experience for those young people. We're looking for about, well, I hope that we have 80 kids involved. The group is often around 60, but I would love to have a huge group for this premiere. So kids, if you're watching, we want you for this production.
Thank you so much. 80 kids, that's amazing. I would have loved to be a part of a program like that when I was younger. So this is so exciting. So I would love to know actually a little bit more about the logistical details of the opera. So maybe either Jocelyn, Rick, or Mitra, you could speak to, like, how many songs are in the show? How many lead characters are you casting for? How about chorus members? I'm sure our audience is dying to know.
Yeah, I can speak to a little bit of that. There are 8 scenes, and each of them had a couple different musical moments, so there's often a chorus that, has some section, like as they portray the wind or the mountains. And then there are really 7 main roles and a couple other smaller ones. I'm working hard on making lots of solo opportunities and small ensemble opportunities so that a lot of people just get a great opportunity to sing. That's important to me. So.
Wonderful. I'm so excited to see how yours are going to be working to teach the students. I know that, as you were saying, Jocelyn, that we are going to be speaking Hmong in the show as well as English. And so, Kalia, I would love to hear a little bit about how the process has been working with Jocelyn to capture the Hmong language in an operatic style, or even transforming your book into a libretto. How's that been?
So we have the rights to an adaptation of the song poet. It is not a direct translation in any way of the song poet into operatic form. That's important for me to say. And because we're dealing with the younger audiences, as a creative writer, forced new and exciting questions, right? If I cannot write the book that I've already written, and now that I'm older and I can see things from a different angle now, when I was writing that book, I was not yet a parent, When I was writing the librettos, I had become a mother. And so it granted me, I think, a perspective on history that, that really, I think, showcases itself very beautifully in the opera. What if those mountains could speak, Gaosong? Those mountains that were the most heavily bound mountains in the world. They've never had a chance to speak. Or those dogs that were left behind because refugees cannot take pets. What do they have to say? What kind of songs do they have to say? The machines that watched my father and all those Hmong men work day and night. What if they could speak? What would they say? I mean, there are a lot of things that I wanted to say to my father's supervisor, not a very nice man at all. This opportunity to reimagine and bring to life gave me an opportunity to engage with all those pieces and parts of the history and the story that made me who I am. And I think in this way, it's really special. Perhaps because this is my first time with the operatic world as well. And Jamie gave me an education. He invited me to the shows and whatnot, But I think it also allowed for me to take certain liberties in the process. Now, it was actually Mitra who suggested that we include Hmong into the opera, into the libretto. I was writing in English. But the moment she said that, the moment I tried it, it made so much sense. There's a beauty in the Hmong language, right? For example, my daughter's name is Sheng Yang. There is no direct translation in English. In Hmong, it is a motion, a graceful motion, right? Something similar to the motion of wind over water or sunlight across the shade, that movement. That's the kind of beauty and that's the nuance, I think, heart of the song poetic tradition that we can all of a sudden convey. When people hear my father sing, even if they know nothing about Hmong, they say, oh my God, I feel all kinds of things. Because the song poetry tradition, right, is a tradition without music. Your voice is your only musical instrument. It's a form that's traditionally sang outside. So the way the wind blows, the songs of the birds and the bees, right, that's your accompaniment. It allows for all this kind of very exciting reimagining of what this would look like with an orchestra involved. So it's really been a magical experience. I'm really proud of it. I hope that you all like it, especially the singers. But I've also been incredibly supported by a very strong creative team. Rick's perspective all along the way has helped me sharpen my focus and answer unresolved questions. Jocelyn's musical questions have given me opportunities to rethink certain lines, to think at certain emphasis, to work on the level of poetry. Right? Poets live by the word. I'm a prose writer. I rest on the sentence. I have like 300 pages to do the work, right, of the poet in 7 lines or 8 lines. And so Jocelyn's questions have really allowed me to really condense my material and impact you know, to really, and now here I want to write, right? To begin to write this heart into something that I can offer in a line, in a way that I don't have to do when I'm writing prose. So it's been an incredible experience.
Kalia,
I actually would like to just add just a bit about the structure of the process, in the sense that, as I understand it, Mitra is going to actually run most of the early rehearsals, because simply there's the music to learn, straight up. That just has to be done. And then I will come in at a later point and start staging the work, in a sense. I really feel like part of the power of this, besides the individual arias and the beautiful work in that sense, is this is an epic story, and so it is going to take a number of students and a number of singers to be involved in the whole process. And as far as myself as a director staging, it's going to be one of those great challenges of having a large group of people and creating the kind of moments that Kao Kalia is talking about, in terms of the water, the machines, the character, all the ensemble characters. I think there's going to be a lot of wonderful creative work to be done in that area.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kalia, and for.
Oh,
Gaosong, you're muted, I think.
so I just wanted Mitra to speak about the music direction.
Well, I will talk about the music direction in a minute, but Rick, you're so right about those group scenes and how amazing they're going to be. But Kalia, I wanted to mention one of the things that we've had the libretto reading, where we brought in artists so that they read it rather than sing it, and then we all get to hear it and comment on it and see if there are things that we want to reshape or reorder or something. And something that came out to all of us in that, Kalia, was the relationship of you and your sister. And to me, that relationship and the way that it's in your libretto is so incredibly gorgeous, and something I think that is really going to move people. Can you talk a little bit about, I'm just really interested about what it's like to write about you and your family and your emotions, and I know you and your sister are very close, and there it is for the world to see in that incredible scene. Could you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, I would be delighted to. So I have an older sister, Dao, who is a year and 9 months older than me. All of our lives, she's always acted like she's the world older, which is to say I have a lot of questions for her and she has a lot of answers for me. Dao had polio as a kid, so one of her legs is a little bit shorter than the other. And growing up, she always limped. And so some folk called her the handicapped one. But Dao, in my mind, was always bigger than any of these physical things, you know. In the opera, there's a scene, and it's between me and her, and it's built on these words that my father has said all of our lives together. Ever since we were little girls, my father would look at us playing together or arguing, and he'd say, "Do you know that you're life partners? That long after the loves of your lives have disappeared, that you two have still shared more of each other's lives than anybody else." And that is really the heart of our relationship. Now, when we came to America, like lots of immigrant and refugee children, we were told that we needed to be doctors and lawyers. Dao won the North End Elementary School spelling bee, so we decided that she was the one that was good with words. She would be our lawyer, which meant that by default, then I would become the doctor that we needed, because every single adult body around us was broken in some very real way. And obviously, I didn't become the doctor that I thought I was going to be for a moment in time. But what I want to do with words is no different than what I would have done with medicine. I want to use words to heal. Dao became the lawyer that we needed her to be, because she understood that the ground wasn't even for everybody, that the earth was not even for everybody. And perhaps without my saying it, she knew that as a public performer, as a writer, as an artist, I would need a strong lawyer behind me. And so we have even today an incredible collaboration. She reviews my contracts. She makes sure that I'm legal. And we laugh and we share these moments and these responsibilities of being the oldest together. You know, it was us who cared for the younger ones. We call them the younger ones because when mom and dad weren't home, she was the one who took care of everything outside of our house, and I was the one that took care of everything inside. We've always been a team. And I cannot imagine a life where I would lose my strongest teammate. And so in many ways, this is my way of telling her how much I love her, how much I depend on her, and how very proud I am of this relationship that we have, this gift that we were born with, that we've been given and granted. It's a blessing, sisterhood, brotherhood, these things are blessings in our life. And you cannot tell a Hmong story without paying tribute to the foundations of the Hmong family. And it is our love like ours. You know, my grandma used to say that the only reason my family survived that treacherous war that decimated 2/3 of our people was because we loved each other. We lived for each other and we were willing to die for each other. And so through our relationship, I hope that I can begin to honor the series of relationships that have brought possible my reality. We children from the past are now parents to the future in some very real way. And if I can deliver something to the future, I want to deliver the kind of love that I have with my sister.
Thank you for sharing that. It's just so moving. I mean, each of you hearing the inspiration for your work and your perspective on your role in this monumental new production is just so amazing. And I feel just fortunate to be here listening to you live, to be learning more about the song poet. And I know that I can see in the chat box, you know, the students here and the participants are also so excited as well. And we technically have 6 minutes left before we open up to the Q&A. And so I think I'm just gonna skip a couple of our questions, and so we have a little more time for our Q&A with the participants. But I think what I would like to ask is, and this is open for anybody. So Rick, you talked a little bit about the rehearsal process, about how first the students would be working with Mitra and then to learn the music and then working with you. But if anybody can speak a little bit more to that experience, and like, do people need previous experience in order to audition or anything like that, that would be great.
Rick,
Mitra?
I can
What
start.
you talked about, yeah.
Yeah, I'll start and then hand it off to you. So it's a great question about the previous experience. And no, you don't have to have any previous experience. As I wrote in the chat, I love helping people learn to sing. That's my role in this, is to teach kids who have a desire to perform and learn. There is absolutely no expectation that you would have ever have sung in an opera prior to this. That's just not that common. So I will be easy to contact through either the Song Poet Facebook page or through the Minnesota Opera website. If you have ideas about, we are hoping, Rick and I are hoping, depending on COVID-19 and when we are all back able to be out and about again, we'd like to do some audition workshops that would help kids feel confident in their audition to be in the show. And I can give some singing lessons to help you prepare. And so I kind of need to hear what people are interested in. But if you do feel like you need help in preparing because you haven't done it before, that's my job, and I would love to help you do it. So if you have an open mind and be willing to try things, and if you love to sing and you love to communicate on stage, then this is the project for you. So as Rick was saying, we will have the first 5 rehearsals to work on the music, and we will together in rehearsal with our wonderful pianist and coach, Kathy Kraulick. Everyone will have the sheet music, then you can take that home. And in rehearsals, we will work on the pieces together, and learn the notes together and learn the counting. We will definitely, although we're hoping to have lots of Hmong speakers in the opera, we know there will also be kids that don't speak Hmong, and we will work on language and pronunciation, which is something that I am learning as well with my friend, B. Vang Mua, who works at the University of Minnesota, and she is helping me with Hmong pronunciation, so I can help you. So we will teach you those things in rehearsal. The plan right now, depending on you know, when we get back to school and things like that, the plan right now is for Rick and I to be able to do some auditioning workshops and things with you this summer. We would audition in August, possibly working with leads in September. Then in October, on Saturdays, we would start having our group rehearsals for music. Then Rick would come in November, and he can talk about what he does for staging. And of course, we don't rehearse on the holiday weekends and things. And then opening in February, and our production in February would be at the Lab Theater, which is right next door to the Minnesota Opera Center in the North Loop of Minneapolis. So Rick, do you want to talk at all about the staging rehearsals?
In terms of staging, I just want to reassure the students that I have worked with youth. I worked on a couple of productions as a director at Stepping Stone Theater for Youth. So I've worked with students in this age range in the past. And as an American, as a director in the Asian American theater world, I've spent a lot of time working with new actors, working with developing actors. And so I really feel confident about working with people who may be relatively new to theater, who may be just interested in performing or interested in trying and seeing what it's about. So all of that, I think, is really, I'm really open to developing that. And I really am excited about working with both the students that become the leads and working with them individually, but also working with the whole group of students, because there's going to be quite a bit of, I think, quite a bit of movement and ensemble work together. So I think that that's going to be great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I would definitely have to attest that I've actually worked with Rick as well when I was a youth, when I was a little baby Gaosong. So I can attest that he is amazing to work with and can definitely help teach you amazing skills. And so is Mitra, of course. And actually, I would love to hear a little bit from Jocelyn about we've talked about the music and like your inspiration, but if you had to like encapsulate what does the music sound like how would you describe the music?
Yeah, well, being very, influenced by the song poetry tradition, it's for those, let's see, it's really, this is a very hard question to answer, by the way, because I love being in the sound world that I'm in, but it's hard to describe it. And it's new to me too, because of what is influencing me as I'm writing. Song poetry basically revolves around 4 pitches. Dun, 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 those 4 pitches. And so it's really fun to kind of play with that and see all the different combinations that I can use with that and how that can influence harmony as well. But basically it's a beautiful sound, those tones together, right? It sounds happy. It sounds kind of bright. It has that major third in it. And so a lot of the music kind of has that in it. In fact, I'm using a lot of major thirds that are stacked, if that makes sense to anyone who knows a little bit about music theory. But another thing that I love about folk songs and is that often the rhythm is not always so, like you think about a pop song and how there's just like a kind of a grinding beat to it. This doesn't have that. It's very flowing sounding. And so the rhythm kind of does the same kinds of things. So it means that there's a lot of mixed meters so far, which is kind of different too. But I think it's really lovely. the orchestra, there's going to be a lot of a cappella singing, because that is how song poetry is usually sung. But then there's also going to be a piano part. There's going to be a synthesizer that sounds like a harp, and a little ensemble of strings, and a bassoon, which I'm really excited about. I love that sound. So it's a beautiful sound world, and I can't wait to share it all with you.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was actually a great description of what the music sounds like. So I'm sorry to have put you on the spot, but it sounds so great. And honestly, I think what this tells us is that this whole production, the song poet, is going to be unlike anything that anyone has really ever seen or heard or experienced. And so how exciting that we have everybody here. So the last question that I want to ask to all of you, and actually I'll just have you reply in one word. So can you describe, when you think of the word, the song poet, what word comes to your mind? You just share it. Like an adjective, a thought, a feeling.
Heartfelt.
Epic.
Journey.
Groundbreaking.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So that officially wraps up this portion of the webinar. And actually, we want to move over to the Q&A. So I'm sure that some of you guys already been asking questions in the chat box. Maybe you guys sent that directly to Jamie. If not, now's the opportunity to please enter in your questions into the chat box so that we can answer them for you. There may be a little lag, or maybe if you'd like, you could just turn off your mic and you can come on and ask your questions directly to our panelists, okay? I hear somebody's audio is on.
There's a question about the length of the song poet. It's going to be, Jocelyn, am I right, about an hour?
I think that's accurate. I think it'll be about an hour. It's hard because it's not all the way done yet, so I can't give you a precise length, but that's how it's shaping up to be, I think. Mm-hmm.
I see here we have another question that's asking, when and how do we audition?
The audition date, as of right now, but friends, I do have to tell you, I do worry that we might have to push it back some. We're going to have all that information current on our Facebook page and our website at all times, and you can always email me. The current audition date we have listed is August 19th. We'll put all that information on our website, but you really only need to prepare a song, and I can help you do that as well. So that's where it is now, but it may end up being in September, just depending on when we have changed from this pandemic.
Yes.
Can I ask a question of you, Mitra?
Yes.
And that is that, should the students or their parents get in touch with you about pre-audition workshops or opportunities to get a little training from you or guidance from you in terms of the singing?
Absolutely. You can, my email address is Rebecca. Actually, Rebecca, will you put it in the links? My last name's kind of hard to spell. You absolutely can. And I actually can do a Zoom, like we are on right now. I can do Zoom voice lessons. And I can help suggest a song and answer any other questions that you have. But yes, I can do that. And then Rick and I, again, are hoping to do an audition workshop. It may end up that we do that audition workshop online, and we will advertise it the same way we did this. So we now have your contact information, and we will send that out to you, but keep watching. So there'll be that training possibility as well. But absolutely, I would love to help you prepare for to sing the audition.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And so I see, I see there are a lot of different logistical questions. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in Project Opera's page on Minnesota Opera, as Mitra was saying. So any information that we have about like dates or trainings or auditions or things like that is going to be on that page. We also will be linking it through our social media page, which I'll have Rebecca put up in the chat box soon as well. And so thank you so much for all of your questions. I want to make sure we answer a few more before we leave. So I'm seeing a question here. It says, with differing thoughts on whose story it is to tell and sing, what are your thoughts on how the organization will handle opposing views? So maybe this might be for Jamie or Mitra.
Sure, I can offer some thoughts. I think we're trying to approach it with great care and respect, and we understand we're kind of breaking new ground here in the sense of a new for opera, in the sense of whose story is being told, a new side or having among opera, and then combining that with students and young people singing, which a lot of times in opera you just don't think of kids and young people telling those stories. Generally it's an art form that is perceived to be for older people to listen to and perform. And it's blending, and it's connecting some different very far-reaching ideas and thoughts and traditions and all sorts of things. So I think we're approaching it that way with great care and listening and trying to be responsive as possible.
Thank you so much. Mitra, do you have any thoughts that you'd like to add on to that at all?
Well, I think so I was new in this position. I moved to Minnesota actually really because of this project, to be part of it. And since I got here in August, I have been trying to make connections in the community with different community leaders, but also families, anyone that has reached out to me that I have a daughter who is a singer, and I have been in contact with them, communicating with them. And I think, that's the most important thing that Minnesota Opera can do here, is to really and truly connect with the Hmong community and Hmong people who are who live here in our community, and whose story this is. And so I am here, and Gaosong is here too as our community organizer, to be a contact for you. And I would love to collaborate with people who have ideas about students that they think should be involved, or possibly people that we should invite to the performance. And I'm very open. There's a question here, how we can encourage Hmong students and students of color to audition for this opportunity. Gaosong, I'm interested in what you have to say to that. But if you have people on this call, if you have ideas about how to do that, I would like to hear them, because it is essential for us that that we make this opportunity available to any kid who wants to do it, and in particular Hmong and Asian American kids. We want them to be in the leads of this production. There are lots of other wonderful supporting roles and chorus roles for all kids and all diverse kids, but we are committed to having Hmong children perform roles.
Yes, thank you so much for both your answers, Jamie and Mitra. I would say for myself as a community organizer, being Hmong American, not only, being an artist myself and having sung opera, but also actually loving and singing traditional Hmong song poetry. So this project just sits really near and dear to my heart. And I think we have some questions here about accessibility in terms of like how we're going to recruit Hmong students. Is there a cost? Will there be scholarships? How can other people be involved that are not just going to be on stage? All of those are excellent questions, and I just want to address them directly here as well. So there's a cost associated with being a part of Project Opera. However, we have scholarships available. And I could say, I speak on behalf of the whole creative team when I say that there is money for scholarships and no one will be denied the opportunity to be part of this project. Even if you come and audition, and if you don't get the part you want, like really for us, it's not about that. It's about making sure that everybody has the ability to be a part of this program who wants to be, in whatever capacity that looks like. So we have technical programs that are for training in theater about like light design and tech, and that's a part of Minnesota Opera as well. And right now we were doing extensive outreach and programming around the song poet, and we're about to get started in high schools and in elementary schools, but unfortunately due to COVID-19 we had to put some of that on hold. However, that doesn't mean that we're going to stop. Even this webinar was a result of the creative team's persistence and passion for this project, and so we're just all excited that everyone showed up today, and there are going to be more opportunities to engage in this project, to learn more about this project, whether you want to audition or whether you want to work behind the scenes or whether you want to perform the night of the show when we're going to be opening, or whether you want to be an organizational partner. In whatever capacity you want to be involved, we'd love to hear it. And whatever advice and information that you have for us in terms of how we can be better arts administrators, better arts organizers, and just better artists altogether, this is definitely a partnership. And as you can see, our big creative team and everybody who's here today, that's what we're really wanting, is to connect and really engage with everybody in the Hmong community, and also Asian American community, and just the Minnesotan community in general, through this beautiful story that Kalia has shared with us, and through the beautiful direction of Mitra and Rick, and with the amazing music that's to come from Jocelyn. So I think with that being said, I wish we could answer everyone's questions, but I think what we'll do is we will collect the answers here, and we will try to answer them to the best of our abilities, put them into a PDF, and we will post the answers to your questions on the PDF onto our social media page, as well as the Song Poet page on Minnesota Opera's website. So, of course, in the meantime, if you have any other lingering questions, feel free to email myself. I'll put my email address here in the chat box, or you can email anybody here on the creative team. We'd be happy to get in touch with you and help to minimize any worries you might have. But other than that, I think, I'll just leave it off to the creative team if anybody wants to say anything else before we leave.
I would just like to say, Gaosong, that was an amazing summary. And as Jamie wrote in the comments here, and Jamie's the boss, Jamie says, we don't turn away students who want to participate due to finances. Do not let that be a reason that you don't audition. We will help you. I also we will put these things in a PDF, but we are aware that transportation is something that we need to help with, and we are working on ways to do that. And even so much as usually we rehearse in downtown Minneapolis, and we are looking for a location in St. Paul to do some of the rehearsals there, so travel is easier. These are all things that we know we need to address to make this program accessible for as many kids as possible. If you have ideas about any of those things, please feel free to share them with us, but we do know that they need to be addressed, and we are working on it.
I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and I want to say, I've learned so much already in this process. This is a groundbreaking work, which is to say that there's a lot of learning to do. For any of the young people in this room, you would be so lucky to get to work with Rick and Mitra and Jocelyn and Jamie. They are wonderful teachers, wonderful artists. Not only will you learn about the craft, but I think you learn how to do art with integrity, with commitment to responsibility, and to balance this very fragile line between working with your heart and then using the smarts up there to help you along the way. It's been an incredible journey already for me, and I think it'll be for all of you as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kalia. Rick, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave our participants with?
Oh, I just want to encourage everyone to be involved. It's just such an exciting project, and It truly is a landmark work. And so this is a great opportunity for everyone.
Thank you. Jocelyn, how about you?
Oh, yeah, I'm just so thrilled. It's I look forward to working with just this. So far I've been spending so much time in my own little world working with the music and the notes, and but I look forward to when that part is done and it just starts to become about the community and putting on this thing. It it's an incredible story, and yeah, I'm so thrilled to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. So I think with that, I just want to say thank you all so much for being here today. My page on Zoom has 3 pages. I have to scroll through to see everybody's beautiful faces. So I'm just so happy that everyone tuned in today. Of course, like I said, please stay connected with us so you can hear more about how to get involved, and also our upcoming, hopefully, audition webinar, which will also be maybe hosted online as well with Theater Moo, which is a really respected Asian American theater company based here in the Twin Cities. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. If not, you can also find this recording again. We will be posting it online. So in case you feel you missed anything, it will be here again for you. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and take care, be safe, and stay warm. Bye.